Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be playing in all of the Polish Tech Tree tank destroyers, starting off at tier 6 and making our way all the way down to tier 10. This line is actually a blast, and it's rather shocking and a little sad that nobody is really grinding these vehicles. I have only seen a handful of Błyskawicas in tier 10, and that's really weird because normally when Wargaming releases a new line, there's a bunch of these things rolling around from tier 6 to tier 10, but I really haven't seen many players grinding these vehicles. And that's probably a combination of a couple things. First of all, many players that grind tank destroyers like to play in the back of the map. And when you take vehicles like this, which are all frontline and pretty tricky to play, a lot of those players instantly get weeded out once they arrive to the tier 8. And when you pair that with the fact that they don't have too much gun depression or flexibility, as I said, they're not the easiest tanks to drive, but I still think that this line is incredibly fun, and if you know what you're doing, you can have an absolute blast. So we're going to start off with the tier 6, the SDP-44 Berta. This thing is kind of wild. The DPM is okay, it's 2300, it's decent for a tier 6 tank destroyer, obviously nothing like the Cryos. But what's really insane about this tank is the frontal protection. The superstructure is around maybe 290 to 300 plus thick. I mean, realistically, nothing is going to pen your superstructure when driving this vehicle. It's kind of insane. I recorded a whole video on this vehicle's armor, but then I got backlogged with a bunch of other videos, so I haven't actually gotten to post that one yet. But it will be up hopefully sometime this week. But in terms of armor, the tier 6 is insane, and even if you don't plan on grinding the rest of the line, I would still recommend to try out the tier 6 due to how incredibly overpowered the armor profile is. And you're going to see that, well, hopefully. The lower plate on all of these tanks are the major weak point, from tier 6 to tier 10. If you showcase the lower plate, you're going to be penned. So in general, you're going to have to learn right from the tier 6 and tier 5 to hide your lower plate. The whole line features almost the exact same capabilities. They all feature the same 6 degrees of gun depression, similar mobility, and similar armor layouts. So because of that, it's actually pretty easy to grind the line. The guns all feature the same AP Standard, APCR Premium. I run rammer on the whole line of vehicles, which is nice. It means that you don't have to get used to anything goofy. From start to finish, you're basically grinding the same type of tank, where, as we know, some of the lines in Blitz, you start off at tier 5, and it's a completely different vehicle by the time you get to tier 10. The T-57 Heavy is a pretty good example, right? I mean, they're all autoloaders, but the T-71 plays nothing like the T-40 or the T-69, and the T-69 plays nothing like the T-54E1. They're all just really weird and different vehicles, and it can make the line itself a rather annoying endeavor. Now our Chaffee is making an interesting play, driving out into the open and losing half of its health already. We're going to make our way up this hill, and we're going to aim it on the ARL V39. We get an easy penetration right into the roof there. Going to turn down my game audio a teeny bit. Now we can see that the ARL did overpoke and shoot me in the lower plate, and that's exactly what I was talking about with this thing's lower plate being the weak point. But I think that ARL learned their lesson. They overpoked, and well, now they're down to 0 health, which is pretty funny. We can also see the insanely overpowered armor on the enemy Berta there. Even loading premium shells, I had no opportunity whatsoever to cut through that thing's armor profile. Now, obviously, when I do get the side, I can cut through, but frontally, this is what my premium shells see when aiming in on that thing. I mean, yeah, I can barely pen through, but that is actually crazy. We have the enemy ARL, which I'm going to clear from the game. And now we have a enemy ARL on my side, which is not necessarily good. So we're just going to back up here and angle towards the ARL. Oof. Yeah, something else to mention about this vehicle, the gun is not very accurate, like even in the slightest. So you're going to have to be really, really careful when using this thing not to overexpose the armor. But look at this, even the ARL is having trouble penetrating my vehicle. That is just how incredibly OP this thing's armor is. The ARL has one of the best guns in tier 6 when it comes to penetration, and my armor just craps on it. It's actually a little insane. So far this game we're doing pretty good. We're going to aim it on the roof of the ARL, and unfortunately we don't pen, but it doesn't matter. I have more damage per minute than that tank. Oh, I forgot to remove my subscriber thing there. Although it shouldn't matter too much if I just get rid of my alert box. There you go. It should no longer have the alerts popping up. Pretty good game, though, I have to say. I mean, 2,571 damage. We got a third class. I mean, that just shows how well this vehicle is performing. The DPM, the accuracy, everything about this tank at tier 6 is surprisingly good. And when you pair it with that armor, I mean, this gun does not have bad penetration. If we take a look at how much pen I'm rocking right now, it's 235 APCR. And with 235, I barely could penetrate the enemy Bursa. Like, the armor it's ridiculous. And against tier 6s, even against tier 7s, you're going to get plenty of bounces. So, out of the whole line, I do think the tier 6 is pretty overpowered in terms of the armor. But now that moves us to the tier 7. This is probably the line that's going to throw the most people off. The tier 7 barely gets a DPM increase at 2,440 versus the 2,350. So it's only about 100 more DPM. The big advantage on the tier 7 is the alpha. You go... Oh, actually, I was running the wrong gun. The DPM's less. I thought it was. I was just losing my mind. Yeah, so the tier 7's big advantage is alpha damage. This tank jumps up quite a bit in terms of alpha. We can see that instead of having 300-ish, it's now got 360. So it's got a really, really juicy alpha damage. It also has decent dispersion. The mobility is about the same. It's not great. Armor-wise, this is definitely going to be the hardest one to use. The superstructure is still really good. The whole upper hull of the tank is about 250 base. If you're running enhanced armor, you can get it up to 260. Like, that's pretty good armor. It means that most standard shells from tier 6 to 8 will not be cutting through you. But the moment people load premium, they're obviously going to have a pretty easy chance to cut through. But the problem is the lower plate is a really, really big weak point. And when I mean lower plate, I mean like the whole upper and lower plate. I can show you guys really quickly while we're loading into this battle, but like, look at this. The upper and lower plate are both super weak, so because of that, you got to be really careful. But yeah, the actual armor on this tank is about 250 base, which is pretty dang impressive when you realize that this is a tier 7. Against premium shells, it's going to be even stronger, so it is pretty nice in that regard. This battle, we're in a top-tier matchup. We got an Aufklärungspanzer Panther, FE201, Pharaoh, and a Go Weak up against us, so we got some dangerous tanks. Alright, well, I'm trying to think of a spot I can hide the lower plate on this tank, and there really isn't one coming to mind. I mean, the enemy team doesn't have too many heavies, but they still do have some dangerous tanks. I think the best spot for me to hide the lower plate in this battle would potentially be this little spot right here. I might be able to hide it, so we're going to head wide. The tier 7 and 6 do not feature the mechanic where you lose damage over distance, so you can actually stay a little bit further back in these vehicles, and there's not much of a downside. But yeah, we're going to chill right over here. We've already spotted the enemy FE, and as we can see, yeah, this is a pretty good spot for me to actually hide the lower plate, so not a bad position at all. We have the enemy Cryos over here, which we get a 360 damage shot into, and as you'll notice, that Cryos is literally panicking. Dude cannot pen me at all, so we're going to reload. Oh, he does pen me, but I think we won that trade. However, we do have a lot of dangerous tanks over here on us, so let's chill right over here. Let's aim it on that T25AT. There you go. Nice 356, but look at this. I'm able to hide my lower plate here, and the enemy literally can't do anything. Like, this is where the armor on this tank does feel quite insane. And you'll notice that the alpha damage feels really good too. That 360 damage per shot just allows me to chunk alpha right out of the enemy. So yeah, the Cryos actually did pen me in the weak point, which is the corner, so I guess my lower plate was hidden from that Cryos. They just managed to hit a point which I didn't think they would. We have the Pharaoh all the way off in the corner over here. We get a nice pen into the Pharaoh for 380. I mean, yeah, the armor is just doing amazing so far on this tank. We're going to reload. Is that FE201 going to show me their haul? Well, we do have the Pharaoh in the back. And I think now is my cue to move up a bit. We've been doing pretty good so far. And yeah, we got a bunch of bounces. It is a good example of, if you know how to play these tanks properly, you can use them really well. So we're going to stay hull down here against the enemy FE. And there you go. Nice 270 damage shot. I mean, this guy's just staring at a whole bunch of red right now. And it is pretty funny when you think of it like that. So we're going to move up a little bit. We're going to get a pen into the side of that FE. We're up to 2,400 damage already, which is really good. I notice that my teammate is being pushed here by the, yeah, the problem is I can't help my teammate out because this Tiger is doing a fantastic job of getting in my way. But there you go. Nice 388 damage shell, and we're going to back up so that the Peter does not have the opportunity to pen me. Alright, we're going to move up. We do have the FE in front, which we get a nice 360 damage shell into. The FE is now one shot. We're over 3,000 damage, so everything in this game is going pretty dang good for me. Let's move up a little bit more. Let's see if we can take that Peter out of the game, or the P-43. Aiming. There you go. Nice 302 damage shot. Our Tiger's doing pretty good. We got the enemy Gowika over to the flank, so we're going to aim it on that player. Aiming, and bonk. There you go, 216. And that leaves us with just the FV201 left on the enemy team. But yeah, this was a really good game. Everything about the Gowika did fantastic. The alpha damage was great. We were able to use that 60 to chunk through the enemy, and the DPM felt fine. The armor felt great, right? When you're in this type of matchup where you don't have super high penetration tanks up against you, and you are able to hide that hull, I mean, look at that, 2,040 blocked, 4,016 dealt, and that was just a really, really good game in general. We did 4,000 damage, so I don't think that the Gowika... Oh, thank you, Wargaming, for absolutely blasting my viewers, but, yeah, I don't think the Gowika's bad. It definitely requires a bit more effort because of how large the lower and lower plate are. But in general, if you know what you're doing and you know how to use this tank properly, it's still going to be really good. And you witness that in full glory in that battle. Now we make our way to the Tier 8. And this is where the mechanics actually start to take effect. The Tier 8 through Tier 10 all feature the DPM that is just through the roof. On paper, Wargaming, for some reason, kind of chose a goofy value to show the DPM. So let's equip this vehicle. Everything's properly equipped. I just need to load ammo. For some reason, my viewers always want me to drive these things stock, so that's why the stock gun is on the Tier 8. But if we take a look at the gun, you'll notice on paper it says only 2,500 DPM. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't sound very good, Droodles. Why would I drive a tank with only 2,500 DPM? But that's because Wargaming kind of lied. The DPM is fully subjective to how you use the tank. For example, we can see it's actually with Rammer 3,524 DPM. The reason Wargaming is 2,500 DPM is because they're showing the damage per minute at 120 to 200 meters of distance. But realistically, if you're driving this thing frontline, your DPM sitting over 3,000 to upwards of 3,524. I mean, sure, the chances of you being less than 50 meters from your opponents is pretty slim, but the chances of being 120 meters away from your opponents is not. So I would say that realistically 3,000 DPM is still a pretty solid result of what you're going to be looking at with this tank. And while we're waiting to load into battle here, let me pull up the armor profile of this thing, because the Tier 8 armor profile is quite impressive. If we take a look here, we can see the upper plate of this tank with enhanced armor is about 290 against APCR. Let's get a vehicle that shoots heat. So this is what 320 mils of heat pen looks like. And we can see that on flat ground, yeah, you're going to cut right through this tank, but using gun depression, you actually won't. I mean, no Tier 8 heavies have this much pen. This is a Tier 10 heavy. And yeah, the upper plate on this tank is actually a bounce. So if you're angling this thing properly, you can get the upper plate to a point where most vehicles aren't going to be penning you. And we can see that it's just the lower plate that's a weak point. The biggest threat for this tank's capabilities are, well, there's actually quite a bit. We have mobile tanks. The Kilana and the rest of the line are not very good on traverse speed. My recommendation is to actually run Speed Boost on this tank, like you can see I am here, because Speed Boost is not only going to allow you to accelerate faster, which is really important, but it's also going to allow you to traverse faster if anything tries getting to your side. I would also recommend running Improved Control instead of Engine Accelerator on the equipment loadouts, so that you can turn 4 kilometers per hour faster on traverse. Those two things are going to be lifesavers, trust me. So those are things that you're going to have to keep in mind. Be very careful of mediums. Apart from that, autoloaders are really, really scary. Autoloaders are going to butter through your armor, so you got to be really, really cautious of that. And obviously, the further we are away from the enemy, the less damage we deal. So at this distance here, I have to be really cautious, because the enemy could be able to cut me off. But what we're going to do is we're going to cross this. Here we go. Nice. Okay. That was actually a really important crossing, because again, if I can get really close to the enemy, it's going to be perfect. So we got a defender spotted on the other side of the map. Let's keep going up here, and so far, not much is detected. The Tiger is kind of playing poor against the Emil and getting bled out, as we can see. I'm just going to keep moving up. I think the Emil is alone, if I'm not mistaken, and that is amazing for me because I can just drive out into the open, get a 472, and this is where the 3,500 EPM is just insane on this tank, right? I mean, I can just turn this Emil into Swiss cheese. 2 pens right into the turret, and just like that, the tank has lost 900 health for me. I mean, that is insane levels of damage output in that short amount of time. We have the T-28 Proto, which we're going to aim it on the side of, where we get a 326 damage shell. You can see how, obviously, the further away the enemy is, the less damage we deal, but it's not even that bad damage, right? At this distance here, we're still dealing 300 damage per shot. Problem is, the T-28 Proto is a tank destroyer, so it will also cut through my armor quite reliably, which is something that I don't necessarily love, so again, you got to be careful. The further you are away, the more damage the enemy's going to deal, the less armor you have, and it's definitely not a great situation to be stuck in when that happens. So always keep that in mind. And we have the Eagle 7, which, there you go, I get a 260 damage clear into. And now we have the STA, which, oh, and the Jagdpanther. Okay, well, those are both pretty scary tanks. I'm going to ignore the Jagdpanther for now, and we're going to push the STA. Let's aim it on the rear of that tank. There you go, 725 into that vehicle. That is an insane roll, and again, it just shows how dangerous this vehicle is. Dang, that shot was so close, but obviously no cigar. But we do have the Tiger, so I should be totally fine here. We're going to reload, 3, 2, 1, get the clear into the STA, and that leaves us with the Jagdpanther, which can't even pen me realistically. I mean, again, this is where the armor on this vehicle is just crazy, and if we get within 50 meters here, just like this, I deal more damage per shot. Pretty bad roll, but still, you can see how good the Key-Lana is. I mean, I actually think that this thing is insane. There you go. 55 damage clear into the Jagdpanther, and yeah, that was a 3,756 damage game. When you are able to close that gap, and you're able to use the DPM and the armor and everything that this vehicle features, it's scary. And you can see that, like, sure, at distance, your damage per shot is a little bit less, right? On that T-28 Proto, I had to shoot, how many shots? I penned that guy 3 times at a 934, where I shot the Emil at 50 meters 2 times at a 916, and those were actually both low rolls on the Emil. So, realistically, I would have, you know, had to shoot the T-28 Prototype 3 times, or the Emil 2 times to deal the same damage. But it definitely shows. You want to drive this thing as close as possible to the enemy. But man, when you get this gun working, it's pretty insane. Did you see that high explosive we hit on the enemy STA? 725. The high explosive throughout the whole line does not change on its damage output. So while the standard can obviously go up and down on its potential damage, the high explosive just does a constant damage, which is really, really nice. So with that being said, yeah, I think the Key-Lana is really good. It's not as good as the Grom. It doesn't have as much gun depression or as much mobility, but it is still a very dangerous tank. Now that brings us over to the Gonk, the Gonkavicha. This tank kind of steps it up a notch. The DPM gets increased by a boatload. The damage per shot gets increased by a boatload. Just about everything when it comes to the Gonk gets increased. Even the armor, right? So we go from tier 8 to tier 9. Actually, let me just quickly double check to see that I'm running the top gun on this tank. I am. Okay, as I said, sometimes people donate for me to drive the stock gun, and it can throw me off a little bit. But I think we just got into a battle, but we can still see the armor on this tank on flat ground is upwards of 320 to 340. I mean, using gun depression on this vehicle, it's around 400 millimeters effective, which is crazy. And the DPM on this tank running rammer is over 4,000. So the DPM on this tank is crazy good. And the damage per shot at 610 is a huge step up from the tier 8. It really is. So now with the tier 9, it means that even at distance, we're still going to be rolling at minimum around 400. So it is a lot scarier. It's a lot more dangerous. I do think that the tier 9 is probably the strongest of the whole line. But that's not to say the other tanks aren't good. I mean, you've been seeing me absolutely dominate in all of the vehicles so far. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go all the way wide to this little spot here. This is a pretty good position to kind of chill hull down. The enemy team has 3 heavies. There you go. We have an enemy 60 TP right over on the flank, which we get a 560 damage shell into. And I'm going to move up. Oh, maybe not. I thought I was going to move up, but the 60 TP never shot, which is really weird when you actually think about it. There you go. The 60 just fired, which means I can roll. Oh, I was hoping I can get off to his side, but unfortunately we were not able to do that. Alright, well, we got the enemy Gonk over here, which I'm going to aim it on the lower plate of. And we do get a nice pen, 483. They shoot me back. What I'm kind of hoping right now... Oh, we got the Yo over here as well. Not able to high explosive pen the Yo, but we still get a 470 damage shot. Oh, God, dude. Really? The grill just has to sit there? Bruh. Well, I can't say this game is going exceptionally well, and if that girl does decide to poke me again, it could be a really, really bad situation for me. Let's just back up, honestly. That's probably the best play to make here. We're not doing too good. I didn't think that the grill was going to sit there, because he wasn't spotted the whole time, but sometimes not everything goes the way you want it to. Let's aim it on the side of the 7.52 turret. There you go. 512, that's pretty good. And we're definitely not doing great here in terms of our team. I think we can all agree on that. Our team is doing pretty poorly, everything considered. Yeah, no thanks, Grill. No thank you. Huh. I have, like, 0 support right now, dude. This is terrible. I don't even know what to do. We have the enemy 7.52, which we do get the clearing shell into, so that's pretty important. But now we got the Gonk over here, which does actually manage to pen me, which sucks all on its own. Then we have the grill on the flank, which we do get a 631 high explosive into. So, like, I did pretty good. I actually did really good this game. I'm up to... Oh, my God. This Hori, dude. What am I looking at? What is going on here? Oh, the Hori is going to get the shell into the Object 84. Who's going to win the brawl? Make your bets. Oh, my God. These players both are living in a different planet, dude. All right. It looks like the Hori is actually going to win the brawl. They do. And... actually, it looks like we should win this. Indeed, we did. I ended up dealing over 3,075 damage and still finished top on the team. I honestly don't know why my team failed to support me so much. We had a full health Kampfpanzer 70 and another Gonkovicha, but I guess when that player is 41%, it makes sense why I didn't get support. I don't know what the heck happened to my Type 5 Heavy, though. I mean, I thought I had a lot of support, and then everything just fell apart around me, which is a bit of a bummer, but either way... The Gonk did totally fine. You definitely saw that increase of damage per shot. We were dealing 600 damage to most of the opponents that got close to us instead of, you know, 400. It is a really, really nice change in the alpha damage. But you also noticed where this vehicle falls apart, and that is when you don't have team support. All of the Polish tank destroyers are team reliant. It's just a fact, right? I mean, that is the way life goes in these vehicles. You have really bad gun depression at 6 degrees, which makes them hard to use on a ridgeline. You have super weak lower plates and track wheels, and when you pair that with the fact that the tank only reverses at 12, it just puts you in a position where if you over-aggress, you are incredibly weak. So my recommendation for these tanks is to actually play them a little more passive. If you are over-aggressing in these vehicles, that's where you're going to do really poor. You need to stay further back, wait for the enemy to make misplays, because at the end of the day, you still have really good DPM, even at, you know, 100 meters of distance, and that's totally fine. So this game, I'm going to try and go to the heavy flank. The enemy team is 3 heavies, and the biggest advantage of the Błyskawica are 2 different things. First of all, mobility. This tank can achieve a top speed of 45 kilometers per hour, which is actually really nice. It means that you can make crossings a lot faster. For example, the Naval Frontier crossing sucks. But in this tank, I can make it across without worrying as much. So that alone is obviously really nice and a big advantage compared to the rest. But not only can you make the crossing a lot easier in this vehicle, but the gun also does more damage, 100 more damage per shot. It's a really welcomed increase of alpha. Now we do have the enemy 60 TP, which somehow manages to bounce me. I'm a little lucky there. The enemy team is playing really aggressive here, which is... Oh, dang, dude. This is not good. This is really not good, to be honest. The enemy team is playing really aggressive for, like, no reason. And I don't like that at all. But we're going to put on my adrenaline and get a 799 chunk into the enemy 777. I mean, that's a huge amount of damage there. We got the enemy Błyskawica, which is obviously a big threat. We're going to aim it on that player, and one of the major weak points is the corner cutouts. If you know how to angle properly against it, you can get a really easy pen. So that's exactly what we did, and that player probably didn't enjoy that all too much. Got the enemy Błyskawica again. We also got the 7.52, which we get a 697 juicer into. We're already up to 2,500 damage. I mean, that's insane when you actually think about it. 2,500 damage in this short of a result is... it's a little ridiculous. That shell was also a little ridiculous. I don't know how that missed by such a large amount. We're naming on the enemy Buiskawika. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. 579. That player is knocked out of the game. Okay, well, pretty good stuff so far. 752's not looking at me, and they're also on reload. So what we're going to do is we're naming on the 752, and there you go. 661. Even if I do get bled, it was still a pretty big win there in the trade department, if you ask me. All right. Let's back up. We have the... Ahaha! Of course! What just shot me for 766 health, dude? What the hell? I can't believe that. Not the 268, a freaking E4 max rolled me? Okay, dude. That's just so cringe. I have no words. Apparently our medium flank sucks that bad that they couldn't help me. Oh, what? Wow. It's crazy how you can go from completely dominating to this because your team sucks. Like, that's all I have to say. I'm still doing alright, but the fact that an E4 max rolled me, it's just so annoying, dude. It's so annoying. Alright, well, let's see what I can do here. We have the 777, which I'm going to poke. We're going to aim in a high explosive on the roof of, and there you go. 2 damage clear. That's a pretty important shot into that player. Alright. We're still alive, which is obviously pretty good. We've dealt 3,700 damage, which is also pretty good, so we're not doing bad at all in this game so far. Gonna aim in on the lower plate of that 60 TP. Nice shot, and of course, I'm tracked. I am tracked. Alright, 60 just shot, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to high explosive the 60, and now I'm going to cross this as quickly as I can, so hopefully the 268 can't kill me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around, so hopefully that E4 doesn't kill me, because I have a feeling, yep, there you go. E4 rolls around the corner. I knew it. I can smell the 40%er, dude. I know when they're going to make these plays. So we kind of single-handedly turn this game into a victory, and it really shows how you can drive this tank properly, right? I mean, it's definitely got some big downsides, but if you know how to use the upsides, you can do really good in it. So there's the enemy 268. We're going to aim in on that player. Aiming. Boom. There you go. 503 damage into that player. That's pretty nice. We're going to reload again. Let's see if that 268 wants to fight me. But yeah, that's already a good bleed. Now I've given our 183 and Yag the ability to see where that player is. So let's see. Is that 268 going to keep crossing? Alright, well, I'm just going to flank behind. I think that's the best play to make here. If I wait for that 268 to shoot, or maybe even not, I mean, I can just flank right behind them at this point. Here we go. There you go, 748 damage. We're up to 5,600 now. And the 268 dies. I mean, wow, yeah, we kind of dominated this match. The only reason it was even a tricky match to begin with was because there was an E4 that shot me for 760 in the rear. Like, I don't understand how my team allows that to happen. It was such an easy tank for my team to deal with and spot, because from where the E4 shot me, if we take a look at the replay, I can show you where the E4 hit me. Basically, if we scroll ahead here, right from where I was hit, let's see. So doing fine, and then the E4 hit me. The E4 was all the way up here. This is where the player was, because this is the only spot that the E4 can see where I was, right? I'm at this corner here, so the E4 was right here. But for some reason, even though we have, you know, a bunch of teammates, none of them were looking here. I don't understand it. It's whatever. But, you know, if that E4 didn't hit me, I still would have had 1,500 health in this result. I would have been able to help out with the heavy flank and probably win the heavy flank with the Super Conqueror. But the moment you have just one tank destroyer shoot you, you go from 1,500 to 700 health. And it's such a good example of how quick these tank destroyers can fall apart if things don't go your way. But hey, 5,600 damage, we got a first class, and we absolutely dominated. And it really does show where this tank is insane, right? I mean, we shot that enemy 777 4 times and took 2,159 health off. We shot the 60 TP and cleared him out of the game, 2 shots into the 268, 1,200. I mean, we did a really good job, and it showcases that the whole line is super fun, at least in my eyes, right? Tier 10, I'm going over 70% in with 3,300, and that's all solo. It's pretty good stuff. On my main account, I'm actually even going more damage. This is just my press account here. So personally, I do think that the whole line is really good, and I would recommend to try them out. I mean, the whole line is fun. They're really dangerous, and if you can use the armor properly, they're beasts. But you guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.